In 1933, a railroad widow in Scranton, Pennsylvania, fed 7 children on $6.40 a week. She owned no car. She held no job outside the home. Her husband had died 18 months earlier in a coupling accident, leaving her a small monthly stipend and a row house with a leaking roof. By the time her youngest left for the Army in 1944, every child was clothed, fed, schooled, and debt-free. What she had was a notebook. 41 rules in pencil, written in the hand of a woman who refused to be ruined. They managed money differently, not with apps or accountants, but with habits hammered into them by a decade that took everything from anyone who was not paying attention. Those habits kept families intact through bank failures, crop ruin, and winters when the coal bin ran empty in February. We abandoned every one of them the moment a credit card felt easier than a notebook. These were not tricks. They were a way of living, passed down at kitchen tables, enforced without argument. The generation that practiced them never thought of themselves as frugal. They just thought they were being responsible. Then we decided responsible was the same thing as backward. Number 16 on this list cost a single penny and saved the average household more than $90 a year, the equivalent of 4 months of groceries in 1934. Number 9 was practiced by every working-class woman in America until the appliance industry spent 3 decades training her out of it. And number 2, the rule Depression-era families enforced more strictly than any other, is now the foundation of every legitimate retirement plan ever written. These 25 habits were not about being cheap. They were about never being broken. They were the difference between a family that survived in 1933 and one that disappeared into the boarding houses and bread lines. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 forgotten frugal habits that helped families survive on almost nothing during the hardest times in America. Number 25, the bone broth pot. A coal miner's wife in West Virginia kept a stock pot on the back of the stove that never went cold. Every bone, every onion skin, every carrot end went into it. From it came soup, gravy, the base for stews, the cooking liquid for beans. She fed 9 people on what other women threw away. Across a winter, the pot stretched her grocery money by roughly $11, the cost of 2 weeks of flour. The pot was not cooking. It was a refusal to throw food away while children were still hungry. Number 24, the single bulb rule. A streetcar conductor in Cleveland enforced one rule about lighting in his home. Only one bulb burned at a time. The family moved with the light, kitchen for dinner, parlor for reading, bedroom for sleep. His electric bill in 1932 was 71 cents a month, while his neighbor's was $1.80 a month. The difference of $1.09 was a loaf of bread every week. He was sitting in exactly the light he needed, and nothing more. Light in an empty room was a bill paid for nothing. Number 23, the patched inner sole. A widow in Lowell, Massachusetts cut inner soles for her children's shoes from cardboard, oilcloth, and the felt of worn-out hats. A new pair of children's shoes in 1934 cost $1.10. A patched inner sole cost nothing and added 4 to 6 months to a pair already owned. Across 4 children, the savings ran $4.40 annually, a full week of groceries. The shoe was not worn out. The bottom was. The bottom could be replaced. Number 22, the Sunday cooking day. A foreman's wife in Gary, Indiana, cooked once a week. Every Sunday, she fired the stove and prepared every meal her family would eat through Saturday. Bread for the week, beans in 3 forms, roast meat sliced cold for sandwiches. The stove burned for 6 hours instead of 40 hours. Over a year, the practice saved her roughly $89, more than a month of rent in 1933. She was not exhausted on Sundays. She was finished. 6 days of cooking were done before they began. Number 21. The newspaper insulation. A laid-off carpenter in Buffalo stuffed newspaper between the inner and outer walls of his house every November. It was layered, packed tight, and sealed behind a wooden lath. His coal use dropped 22% that first winter. The newspaper had been free. The labor was his own, performed in a month when he had no work anyway. He had read the principle in a library book and substituted what he had. Knowledge does not require capital. It requires the willingness to read. Number 20. The weekly mending basket. Every Friday evening, a Polish grandmother in Pittsburgh emptied her mending basket, buttons resewn, sock heels darned, cuffs turned and restitched, pant knees patched from the inside with fabric cut from a worn-out shirt. She estimated her Friday hour saved $34 a year in replacements. In 1933, $34 was 3 months of utilities. The damage was not the end of the garment. It was an interruption that lasted as long as the basket sat full. Number 19. The garden plot behind the house. A street cleaner in Detroit turned his backyard into a vegetable garden in the spring of 1932. It measured 12 feet by 20 feet. Tomatoes, beans, cabbage, carrots, onions. The seeds cost 84 cents. The yield, by his wife's careful accounting, replaced $47 in grocery purchases between June and October. They canned what they could not eat. The jars carried them through January. The question was simple. Why pay for what the ground will give you for the cost of seeds? A factory hand's wife in St. Louis made her own soap. Bacon grease, lard, ash from the wood stove, lye purchased for 9 cents a can. The yield was 30 bars. Store soap cost 6 cents a bar in 1934. Her 30 bars cost her 9 cents in materials and 3 hours of labor. 3 batches a year saved $5.13, the equivalent of a pair of children's shoes. She was converting waste fat into a year of clean laundry and pocketing the difference. Here is what nobody mentions when they talk about the Great Depression. The poverty rate fell faster between 1933 and 1940 than in any decade before or since, and it fell most steeply not in the cities receiving federal relief, but in households where these habits were practiced without supervision. The economists studied bread lines. They missed the kitchens. The recovery that mattered was not on the front page. It was in the basements where women canned tomatoes, in the alleys where men patched roofs with scavenged tin. America did not survive the Depression by waiting. It survived by working in silence. Number 17. The library card before any purchase. A retired schoolmaster in Richmond never bought a tool, an appliance, or a book without first walking to the public library. He read the trade journals. He compared prices across catalogs. He read repair manuals before paying for repairs. Across a decade, the library saved him an estimated $230 in informed purchases. The card cost nothing. The poor man's advantage was not money. It was the willingness to walk 3 blocks and read. A railroad clerk's wife in Omaha cleaned her entire house with one ingredient, white vinegar, bought in gallon jugs for 14 cents. She cleaned windows, floors, pots, drains, and laundry stains. She used no commercial cleaners between 1931 and 1944. Across that period, her cleaning costs ran $1.68 a year, while her neighbor spent $11.40. The annual gap of $9.72 was 4 months of children's lunches. Anything beyond what cleaned was a bill she paid to feel modern. 4 families on a block in South Boston ran what they called the Circle. The Donnellys had a milk cow. The Sullivans had laying hens. The Murphys grew vegetables in a vacant lot. The Caseys mended clothes for all of them. Nothing changed hands for money. A pint of milk for 2 eggs. A dozen eggs for a basket of beans. Across a year, each family reduced its cash expenses by an estimated $60 without any of them earning a single additional dollar. The Circle was a private economy that the bank failures of 1932 could not touch. Number 14. The oilcloth tablecloth. A widow in Toledo covered her kitchen table with a single piece of oilcloth purchased for 38 cents in 1929. She wiped it clean after every meal. It served as her tablecloth, her surface for kneading bread, and her workspace for canning. It lasted 11 years. The fabric tablecloths her sister bought wore out every 2 years and cost $1.20 each. The boring choice was the durable choice. The durable choice was the cheap choice. They were always the same choice. Number 13. The saved wrapping paper. A school teacher in Burlington, Vermont kept every piece of wrapping paper that came into her house, folded flat in a drawer, reused at every birthday and Christmas for 19 years. The savings ran small, perhaps $1.20 a year, but the principle ran deep. Anything that arrived in your home for free was already yours. Throwing it away was paying for it twice. Her drawer was not sentiment. It was inventory. A dock worker's wife in Baltimore bought whole coffee beans for 19 cents a pound, and she ground them by hand. Coffee that was already ground cost 28 cents a pound. The 9-cent difference, at a pound a week, saved $4.68 a year, a small but real savings. The grinder had belonged to her mother, and it had been paid for once in 1898. By her math, 3 minutes of cranking bought 9 cents, which translates to an hourly wage at the grinder higher than her husband earned at the dock. The labor was the highest-paying work in the household. Number 11. The chicken in the yard. A widower in rural Tennessee kept 4 hens in a wire pen behind his shack. The hens cost him 60 cents apiece. They laid an average of 180 eggs each per year. Eggs in 1934 cost 29 cents a dozen. His 4 hens produced the equivalent of $17.40 in eggs annually for the cost of scraps, water, and a one-time investment of $2.40. The hens paid him back in 3 months and earned him for 7 more years apiece. He did not call himself a farmer. He called himself a man with 4 chickens. Pattern break. In 2019, a behavioral economist at the University of Chicago published a study tracking the financial habits of adults across 3 generations. The finding that surprised her: respondents whose grandparents had lived through the Depression and who had been taught those grandparents' habits directly, not just told stories about them, carried 41% less consumer debt than peers of identical income. The protective effect was not wealth. The protective effect was practice. The methods worked. They had always worked. Forgetting them was the only thing that broke them. A bookkeeper in Hartford gave up his Sunday afternoon drive in 1932. Gasoline was 18 cents a gallon. A typical drive used 1.5 gallons. 52 Sundays a year, that added up to $14 in gasoline, and it was eliminated entirely. He walked instead through the park, around the neighborhood, sometimes to the river. He lived to be 91. The cheap choice and the healthy choice were the same choice. They almost always are. A mother of 6 in Springfield, Illinois, never owned an electric dryer. She hung every load on a line in the backyard from May to October, and on a rack near the stove from November to April. Electric drying in 1958 cost roughly $34 a year. She kept that $34 every year for 30 years. That added up to over $1,000, recovered from the simple act of using sun and AIR. She was not punishing herself. She was using the free utilities the planet provided in unlimited supply. The dryer was the bill. The line was free. Number 8. The Basement Workshop. A pipe fitter in Milwaukee built a workshop in his basement out of scrap lumber and tools he had inherited from his father. He repaired the family's furniture, shoes, and small appliances. Over a working life, the workshop saved him an estimated $2,400 in services he would otherwise have purchased. The workshop itself cost him $14 to build. He was not handy by nature. He taught himself, one repair at a time, in a basement built from wood other men had thrown out. Number 7. The Pencil Stub Drawer. A bookkeeper's family in Akron kept a drawer of pencil stubs. Nothing was discarded until it was too short to grip. A box of pencils cost 12 cents in 1933, and it lasted the family 2.5 years. Their neighbor's family bought 4 boxes a year. 40 years of 36 cents was $14.40, and that was just pencils. The same logic applied to soap, thread, candles, and writing paper. Small, consistent savings compound. That was the entire principle. Number 6. The used book instead of the new one. A high school teacher in Charleston bought every book her family read at the second-hand store 3 blocks from her home. The average price was 8 cents. The new equivalent was 78 cents. She read 24 books a year. Her annual book cost ran $1.92 instead of $18.72. The $16.80 saved was a Christmas for 3 children. The store was not a substitute. The store was the better store, available to anyone willing to walk to it. A widow in Jersey City rented her spare bedroom for $3 a week in 1934. That added up to $156 a year, more than half her annual living expenses. The boarder shared the kitchen and bathroom and otherwise kept to himself. Her house had not changed. She had simply recognized that an empty room was a bill paid for nothing. Most homes in 1934 had at least one. Most homes today still do. Number 4. The Cold Pantry. A canal worker's wife in Albany kept a cold pantry on the north side of the house. It was an unheated closet with a small vent to the outside. From October to April, the pantry stayed within 10 degrees of a refrigerator. Her ice purchase, which had run $4.80 a year, dropped to 80 cents. The pantry had cost her husband 2 afternoons and a few feet of lumber. Geography was free. Used correctly, it eliminated bills the wealthy paid every month. A butcher's neighbor in Memphis never bought meat already cut. A whole chicken cost 19 cents a pound. Pieces cost 31 cents a pound. A whole ham ran 14 cents a pound, and sliced it was 22 cents a pound. She bought whole and cut at home, and froze or canned what she did not eat that day. Across a year, the practice saved her $26, an entire month of groceries. By her calculation, those 20 minutes a week paid her roughly $1.30 an hour, at a time when factory women earned 35 cents. The kitchen was the highest wage workplace in America. Almost no one realized it. Number 2. Pay yourself first. A streetcar mechanic in Birmingham followed one rule above all others. The first dollar of every paycheck went into a tin box on top of his bedroom dresser. Not the last dollar. Not whatever was left at the end of the week. The first. In 1933, his pay ran $14 a week. He saved $1. By 1944, his pay ran $32. He saved $4. The amount changed, the order never did. By 1958, the tin box and its descendants had paid for a house, 2 children's college tuitions, and a retirement that lasted 23 years. He was not gifted at money. He had simply moved $1 before he moved any other dollar. For 3 decades, without exception, the order was the entire trick. Number 1, spend less than you earn. That is the whole rule. No envelope, no notebook, no system. The unglamorous, unshakable, unchanging discipline was this: spend less than came in every week, every month, for decades. Until the gap between earned and spent became the foundation of everything that followed. A paid home, a clean ledger, a generation of children who started life from steady ground instead of debt. The Scranton widow with 7 children was not running 24 systems at once. She was practicing one with such consistency that 24 others fell into place around it. She spent less than she earned every single month for 16 years. That was the system. It always was. None of these habits required a degree, an advisor, or a subscription. They required attention, the willingness to look at money honestly, without shame and without fantasy. The generation that lived through the Depression understood something modern America has spent 70 years trying to unlearn. That comfort is not the same as security. That convenience is not the same as freedom. That the ability to buy anything you want is worthless if you have not first built the ability to say no. These were not poor people's habits. These were free people's habits. The Scranton widow was not wealthy. She was unreachable by hunger, by repossession, by the quiet dread that settles in the chest of a parent who does not know how the next month will be paid for. The notebook is still free. The pencil still costs a dime. Only the habit has faded.